Merci tout d'abord d'avoir sacrifié une partie de votre déjeuner pour venir à la conférence. Donc pour les étudiants qui ne me connaissent pas, j'enseigne le projet en première année avec Jacques Ziegler, David, Antoine et Victor. Et je m'occupe aussi des échanges internationaux avec une partie de l'Europe, la Méditerranée nord-est, l'Italie, comme par hasard. Et dans ce cadre-là, j'ai rencontré Giovanni Corbellini il y a quelques temps. Giovanni qui enseigne à l'école, donc si je ne me trompe pas, qui a enseigné à Milan, qui a enseigné à Ferrare, à Venise et à Trieste. Il est à l'origine de nombreux ouvrages, certains qui sont traduits en français et qui sont à la bibliothèque. Donc dans ce contexte-là, on s'est connus et j'ai découvert à ce moment-là un livre que Giovanni m'a fait parvenir qui s'appelle « Les pilules du docteur Corbellini ». Alors, c'est un titre assez drôle, et c'est un ouvrage qui m'a paru, en tous les cas, adapté à l'enseignement des premières années, parce qu'il s'agit d'une sorte de guide, voilà, pour des fondamentaux de l'architecture, abordé d'une manière assez simple. Et à mon sens, ça correspond aussi à l'enseignement qui est fait en première année par tous les enseignants de projet, c'est-à-dire un enseignement assez démocratique qui permet aussi à des jeunes comme vous, qui n'ont pas forcément de référence des cultures architecturales, de commencer à aborder le projet. Donc, je vais ainsi laisser la parole à Giovanni. Alors, la conférence est en anglais. Voilà, donc pas forcément les questions, si vous avez à en poser. On va essayer d'être rapide, parce que nous avons tous donc, des projets dans 3/4 d'heure maximum. Donc, je laisse donc la parole à Giovanni pour qu'il puisse un peu vous expliquer, en tous les cas, sa conception de l'enseignement, en tous les cas.
Merci. I would like to speak in English, but if you prefer, I can speak a much better Italian. What do you prefer? English maybe is better, okay. So, teaching architecture is very hard task. And because this discipline is not like other sciences, there is the test in French, so you can understand something from the text. I was saying that architecture is a hard discipline because it is not a hard science. It is always something that you have to reinvent every time. So every truth we try to transmit in architecture is a very provisional truth, and something which depends from the context in some way. What we consider perfectly right in a fold of space-time could be completely wrong in another situation. And for the same space-time fold, different architects produce very different outcomes. So it's very difficult to transmit a discipline that have this kind of features. This instability, this blurring effect, is what is appealing in architecture. So we as architects love this kind of quest, this kind of research we have to do every time when we design something. So, but on the other hand, when we talk about architecture, when you approach architecture, we know that it is something very similar to religion, because it is scientific from some point of view, but not completely. So Edoardo Persico was a very famous Italian scholar, said that architecture is the substance of hoped things, and it is taken from the Bible. And it's something that is quite how to say, we can agree with him in some way. My mother-in-law used to say that also the most atheists go to the church one time a year at Easter. So to be member of this community of architects, you should share some rituals and share the language. So we should put in common our experience with the experience of the other architects. So here you are some brief and rapid advices to start as an architectural student. So the first one is this little drawing is my self-portrait when I try to teach architecture, because what I can do about what I can say about architecture is like that, like this very, very crude things. Because it is very, one colleague of mine said that architecture is a discipline that you can learn, but it is impossible to teach. So there is a method that is sure that give you the expected result. Every time also teaching architecture is a research. So it is needed that you get involved, that you make something for your learning this discipline. So one of the things that I saw with my Italian students is that they wait for mine continuous feed of solution, of advices, of things. But this is not the way to get learned in architecture, because you have to put yourself to risk. You have to risk all the times your proposals. So don't wait for the teacher that cook your own food. You are too young, so you don't watch at sexy magazines. When I was younger, there were these magazines with the centerfold, so you read the magazine in this way, not in the right way, but this way. And this is the way many architects look at magazines. So they look just to the act, and they don't care about how the guys or the girl get in love and so on, so fall in love and so on. So my advice is to read also the texts. Don't look at the images only. Get passionate, be passionate, because architecture is a very nice profession, but you have a lot of bad things with good stuff. When you design, it is very complete involvement, but I mean, there are a lot of very, very not so pleasant other things we have to cope with. So if you are not passionate, maybe be an architect is not the right choice. Copy. One of the things that I see in my students is that they want to create something. They want to propose something new every time, but I mean, there are thousands of years that we make architecture, and I mean, someone before you maybe had already a good idea. So before starting to create architecture from scratch, maybe it is more useful to study and to copy things. Also, Le Corbusier said, "Je suis un voleur." So we can be thieves too. Copy again, because architectures are linked one to each other in this kind of circuits. So you can refer every architecture to another one, and maybe if you know a good architect, you can find someone else good from him or for her. Take note of your discoveries, because remembering the architecture is a tool to design, architecture anew. So if you have a good library in your mind, in your brain of former architecture, you can, how to say, extract things and issues that you can put in your new proposals. But you should also forget, because remembering is a function of our brain that requests also a selection. So you cannot remember everything. You have to choose. So the things that are not useful or are not that not deserve memory should be forget. Get involved. Get involved because in my experience, I am still a ski instructor, and I saw that my little skiers didn't learn from me directly. But if I had a good young skier in my group, also the less skilled one could learn from him or for her. So it is important that you try not only to look at the teacher, because the teacher have maybe 10 or 20 years of experience, so it is much more skilled than you, but you also can look at the best student in your group in order to get something that can be compared to its outcome, to his or her outcomes. Try to emerge. I remember when I was studying in Venice, and we were a lot. We were 2,000 with one teacher, so competition was very harsh, very strong. So we had to emerge in some way because the teacher had no time to look at our drawings. So we had to make very beautiful and very catching drawings in order to be interesting for the professor. It was like, how to say, like to seduce a very, very handsome man or a very beautiful woman. So you have to make something very special, very special. So try to emerge, because the teacher who sees this push, this will to emerge, can give you some more advice, some more time of him. Do it yourself. So don't wait again for the advices, but also try to share what have you discovered. It's like when you go to fishing and you go to the pub in the evening. You say, "I took a very big fish," and he took a very big fish in this time. So again, love architecture. What surprises me every time with my students, I teach usually at the second year, I ask them, okay, you have copied this project, but say me who is the architect? And they say, I don't remember. So that's crazy, no? If you copy from someone, you have to know who he is. Maybe also where he studied, who is his wife, who are his collaborators and so on, because knowledge is something that gets relations. So I ask always to my students at the end of the year, you should say to me, who is your preferred architect, and other living, possibly architects, other 5 architects that you love, and which are the projects, the best project of them, and so on. So it's like in music, you know, you can say who is your best singer or the best group. No, you can say to your mother or to your grandmother, yes, my favorite group is, I don't know, the Beatles, maybe. And you know John, Paul, Ringo, and Paul. No, so and George. So you know the names of this the part of the group. So I asked to my student, yes, you copied this this project from vendredi. What does it mean, vendredi? So you should know. You should have the passion, the will to know who are the architects from whom you are copying. Get in depth. So these architects are a kind of little treasury to be exploited in order to get information and to get ideas for other projects. Get trained in some way. Practice. No, this is train. Train in order to get how to say to get some more skill, because if you design many projects, you become every project better, no, some way more bravo. My English is going worse, as you can see. Okay, so also practice. If a friend of yours or relatives and so on ask you to design or produce something, it is a good opportunity to practice. And look inside you. I don't know, I have those kind of things when I look inside of me, but you can have other probably. And if you like something very much, you can use it to get interesting projects. But you should in some way deconstruct these things, understand why you like it in that way, and then extend your gaze and use the things you have learned from the things you like in order to produce a project. These could be very different things. This could be books, pictures, paintings, what you want, sculptures, and you can use them, music also, to get more interesting projects. Some of these projects are mine, but it is not interesting here. You will find in this activity something that it is recurrent, that comes and comes again, so you can understand what are the things that make this beautiful or interesting situation work. So you can use this working structure to get to translate it into architecture. Step aside in some way, move your gaze in order to understand that architecture, like art and science, is paradoxical. In some way, when you propose a project, you try to change in some way the world. So you should propose something which is different, and to understand this difference, you have to move your gaze and move the gaze of the other people who pay you and pay the project. So it is important to get this moving, this paradoxical approach. Focus. This is a kind of little advice, little method to make projects. At every step when you are designing something, you can try to make a little, like a stamp or like a logo, in order to understand which are the things in your project that are very important, that are the things that you want to get at the end. So these are some trademarks of very famous architectures. And you can see that with very few signs, you can describe an idea. So at every step, it is very useful for you to try to synthesize at the maximum the idea of the project. And maybe some of these projects, one is in Paris, so you know it very well. Another thing that it is important for you is to try to refine your taste in some way. Because, I mean, you are very young, but if you read good books, if you listen to good music, if you go to the ballet, if you go to the exhibition of art, it is, all of them are food for your architectural thinking. You can translate stuff from these things to this one. So go to watch Antonioni films and so on. They are very boring some way, but you can find there very, very interesting. Or maybe if you are among the few, it happens maybe one time every 5 years that I have a very elevated student who is able to translate from Greek without the dictionary and so on. It happens. If you are one of them, maybe you should go to get a petit tour in the popular culture, because there are a lot of interesting things in popular culture where you can extract again issues and ideas for your projects. Keep the things together. There are no architectural machine like that. When you put something on one side that you get the project at the end. If we have something similar, we are not useful as architects, also as teachers. So try to understand that design is a very complicated operation, and you should always get back to the first idea, and every step beyond implies looking back to the first proposal. So it is not important that you start from plans, for instance. You can start from elevations, you can start from a detail, you can start from landscape. It is not important, but you have to start. You don't have to stop in some way. So every step is connected to the different scales of the project. Take care. You have to work a lot to get your project done. Don't be so careful at the end, at the beginning of the coherence, of the consistency of every drawing that you produce, but try to work a lot, because there is no way to get the project working without working. Okay, so you should take your time and try again and again different proposals, different solutions. This is not mine. It is a sketch by Gino Valle, a sketch on an envelope. You see, it is a very famous Monumento alla Resistenza in Udine, one of his best projects, and I think one of the best projects in Italy of modern architecture. And I took this because many times my students propose me very ugly drawings that even them don't like. So drawings that you should like your things before to present to a teacher, because if you don't like them, the teacher is probably won't like them the same. Okay. Take measures. Always the most problematic part, especially with the first-year students, is to design a parking place. No? Because the student don't know how long is a car and how is the diameter of the turn. And usually they put a road of 3 meters to park at 19 degrees, which is impossible. No, you should have at least 5.5 meters to make this maneuver. So take measure. Nobody knows, nobody is learned, is born learned, but you can take measure of the things that you have around you. No? Water closet, okay, this 35 centimeters. A car, 1 meter and 80 centimeters. Long, maybe it is a Volvo, 5 meters. It is a Smart, 3 meters. Okay? So take measure. It is easy. Use the right tools, especially now you have these very smart machines, but the smart machine can perform some activity, not all. So use the machine for the things that they can give you, but use the sketch because it is faster. It is it has this kind of blurring, not so precise feature that allow you to understand the right way to go. On the other hand, the computer is very precise. It doesn't allow you to have this kind of suspended situation in which you can find something. Without the computer, it's very difficult. With the computer. Another things, I don't know, I never taught in France, so I don't know if French students are like Italian ones, but usually they take this kind of drawing, no, and talk a lot. Okay, because I wanted to do this thing, another one, and a skyscraper, you know, with this little house. So try to, if you have to propose something to the teacher, try to have a drawing for everything. So if you want to propose a skyscraper, draw a skyscraper. Okay? So this is a drawing is our way to think. It is the thinking tool for architects and also for to communicate. It is a tool to communicate. Talking is not. It is not how to say an oral matter. Architecture is a written discipline. Oh, this is one of mine problem. I like students that talk straight. Not talking about, I mean, sustainability or beauty or other things that are we cannot talk about them. Wittgenstein, an Austrian philosopher, said, now it is difficult for me to translate from Italian to English. You cannot talk about the things that are not sayable. Something similar. So try to talk of the things that you can talk about. So beauty, can you talk about beauty? It is very difficult, no? We are not philosophers, or you can say, yes, it is beautiful for me, but probably it's not beautiful for other architects. So try to be synthetic. When you propose drawing to a teacher, try to use keywords or action, like this project of mine, in which you can propose some step with a very, very synthetic tool. In this way, there are verbs that say, okay, an action that I can do, and it is a tool that transforms the project. No, it is a process in which step by step, I can propose something. Oh, as you have seen, these keywords are pretty contradictory. So I can say one time, remember, and the step forward I say, okay, forget. So always there are this contradiction, because I mean, architecture is a contradictory discipline. So, first thing to get good project is to acknowledge your limits. So to understand that what you can do. No, if I am in the first year of architecture, it's difficult to get a Gehry, no, like the Vuitton Foundation here in Paris. It's very, very hard to get these very complicated projects, and maybe it is not like a good result. Also, that Gehry built one, but it is a question of taste. On the other side, try every time to get a little beyond your limits. So, just a little. Acknowledge your limit, but try to get something better every time. In order to improve, if you want to improve your skills, it is necessary to try something difficult, something harder every time. Be coherent. Another thing that my student proposed me is always, oh, Professor, I want to make something very blurring, very immaterial, very non-material. And then they proposed me a project with 1 meter deep walls. It is not. It is very heavy. The contrary of what they are saying. So try to be coherent in what you are saying and what you are drawing. That it is very important. Get some risk. Because errors are always teaching. Errors can give you advice on what you cannot do, but also can give you some ideas. Because many also in science, many discoveries are put by error, are the outcome of errors. So this proliferative attitude of errors could be exploited in some way. Or put you in another shoes. So take the gaze of your client in some way, because especially not the first years, but in the last year, the students try to do something very spectacular, very extreme. But I mean, we know that we are in part artists, but not completely artists. So we can try to understand how the people behave, what they expect, if the buildings we are drawing could be friendly, could be useful, and so on. So this is the last part of my lecture. I can try to go very, very quick, very fast now, because now there are some of my personal obsession. The advices I gave you before are some way general, but the last one, the last 21, are a little bit more personal, what I asked to my student without explaining it in some way, because I mean, it is what I asked to my student and they should believe me. I expect that they are expected to believe me and do what I ask them. Be selective. Try to don't propose too many fonts. Beware of machines. Machines are very powerful, but are also very difficult to tame in some way. Usually, in the first years, you are tamed by machines, not the contrary. And try to look for abstraction, because when you propose models are often similar to those crèches de Noël, I don't know the English word, presepe in Italy. when you draw, try to avoid frames, and also try to not be similar to those kind of posters of Sagre, I don't know, fête foraine, or also avoid to propose drawings that are similar to the annunci mortuari. It's difficult to translate in English. D'essai. It's right. Try to concentrate and don't cheat in some way, because it happens with students. They have a big panel, big drawing, and a little elevation, and they put a big writing underneath, because they have space, they have room. They don't know how to do with the blank space, so they put a big elevation written, much more bigger than the drawing. Try to be specific. Communication is a difficult endeavor, so try to represent only the right things, the things that you have to talk about, not other things. Try to minimize your project in order to get a more working one. If you look at your drawing and you see something that could taken apart, it is right to subtract something. Don't be banal. As you have seen, many students try to propose, or at least it happens in Italy, their home as the model for the architecture of future. That is not the right place here to propose those kind of things. Another advice is to avoid, to beware of imitations. And also, there are many architects that if they have to design a house on the beach, they propose this house in form of a boat, of a sail, or something similar. I hate this thing. I cannot explain why, but I hate it. It's very cheap. It is a very cheap trick. Okay. So I ask to my student to don't imitate life, because life is much more smarter. It is smarter than design. So design something that makes sense, not that imitate other things, which are usually much more interesting. Another feature of the drawings of my student is that. Especially of the arguments, when they propose a kind of very strange or weird elevation, a weird facade, they said, Professor, I would like to make some movement in my facade, but houses don't move. Houses are, how to say, beni immobili in Italian, okay? Real estate. And buildings don't fly. So there is always something around the buildings. So don't draw only the building, but also what is in the outskirts. Okay. Oh, another thing, beware of curves, because curves are very difficult to be drawn, designed, and especially to be realized, to be built. So if you have this very need to draw curves, to bend your buildings, try to do it with some geometric rule. So trust in geometry, because geometry is our tool. Don't draw curves without a rule. Another thing that it is usual, because we are symmetric, and our body is symmetric, so we in some way we love symmetry, but it is often a misleading, very easy way to design. And especially if you think at architecture as something which changes in time, symmetry is something that can endure time. So we use it for monuments or for tombs. But if we design something that it is expected to change in its life, it is probably that giving some freedom to a project is much better. So if when I design a house, for instance, in which I have the bathroom on one side and I have a symmetry axis here, I have to put another things of the same dimension of the bathroom I put there. So maybe try to be symmetric is a kind of constraint that makes the project too rigid, without the possibility to cope with other development in time. Another thing that it is very usual is that my students with symmetry always produce urban plans that are similar of those kinds of those kind of things, or other with horns or that seem animals and so on. And it is always funny in some way, and because they didn't see it, and when you have the correction, you see, oh, this is a kind of cow. Well, why did you design a cow? Or maybe something worse like that. So it is try to avoid symmetry, because symmetry also usually give this kind of results. I go, this the last two ones. So if architecture is a quest, is a research, also these advices should be criticized. So be critical and try to transgress every rule at the end. Okay, I am a serious scholar, not only, I don't only draw jokes like the one I presented you. So in the book there are scholarly referenced projects, so try to be scholar when you do some research. And I'm an author of many other books, someone also in English, so if you want to read me, you can find other things, maybe in a better English than the one I performed in this lecture. Okay, thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup à Giovanni pour cette intervention, qui me paraissait adaptée en tous les cas à des premières années, même deuxième, et dans un anglais adapté aussi. Moi j'avais une question rapide, forcément, c'est quelle est l'application que tu as pu avoir dans toutes les écoles que tu as traversées, parce qu'à l'école de Mettre ici, en première année, en tous les cas, le projet est enseigné par des exercices avec des fondamentaux, on part du sol, ensuite les murs, la toiture, ensuite on ferme un programme. Est-ce que cet ouvrage, qui est accessible à la bibliothèque, ici à Marne-la-Vallée. Jacques Ziegler a une question. Ah oui, un micro, oui, vous n'avez rien entendu. Voilà. Merci Jacques, une fois de plus. Donc, quelle est l'application, s'il y en a une, à travers ton enseignement, du projet, en tous les cas?
Do you, the question is if it worked?
If it worked in Italy, for example. How do you practice?
Yes. This is the first lecture I always give to my students. So it is a kind of contract that I try to sign with my student, but I mean, it works, but not as I wished in some way. Okay, but it works in some way, because I mean, I got tired in many years to say always the same things, and now I have a little book, and I say to my students, try to, you don't believe it, okay, but try to do it the way. You don't understand why, no problem, go. And with someone it worked, not with all the students, but I think. it was an effort in some way. It was also a chance because I didn't have any idea. I haven't have any idea to publish these very private thoughts. But a publisher in Italy asked me, "Do you have something ready?" So I gave him this lecture. I say, "Okay, fine, we can do it." And I draw after this. I had a lecture, a written one, a written lesson, and I draw these little drawings. It was very funny for me. They are did with the computer, I can confess, not with the hand. They are not hand drawings, but I mean, it was very funny for me. And it had a big success. The only very successful book I published, because the other serious one are, yes, I sold them. One of them, this one, Ex Libris, will be published in English soon. So I had a little success, I should say, as a writer. But this one, with these little drawings, with these little advices, was the most successful one. Translated in French and with a double edition in Italian. So a little success.
Est-ce que vous avez des questions par hasard? On passe à l'application? On se voit dans nos salles. Merci, Giovanni.
Merci à vous.